What's up? Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Mike Renner, Kyle Long, JP Acosta, as always. And we are getting bold on today's episode because football's back. Football's kind of back this weekend. I mean, college, I don't know your guys' thoughts. I think we're all like trend towards the NFL over college, but it was a nice precursor. Now, all like the top 10 matchups kind of felt like duds. I mean, they didn't live up to the hype that we thought, but this week's Week 1 NFL matchups will not disappoint. So we got bold predictions on tap. But in our first off the ball segment, we got to talk about last night.
Ooh.
Bill.
Oh my gosh.
48-14. They had Kirk Herbstreit's dog calling the game at the end. They put him on the headset. Peter was on the headset. That's like nothing more embarrassing than when they put the dog on the headset with 2 minutes to go. Bill Belichick, I mean, that was awful. That was even worse than I think a lot of people expected. People didn't expect to be good. They don't have this talented roster. But that was worse than even I expected.
I mean, the first thing that stood out for me was just how poorly executed that defense was.
Yes.
For someone who is supposed to be, and as we all know Bill Belichick as this maniacal scheme lord defensive wizard, Bill Belichick, getting put into the dirt by the air raid offense in your first week, where they basically just formation the hell out of their defense. They line up in these 5-man fronts, and all TCU would do would get into trips on one side, a tight end on the line, the other side, pin, pull, touchdown. The first 2 explosive plays of the second half were pin, pull touchdowns where there was nobody to that side. So it's, as someone who experienced the Urban Meyer Jaguars thing, I get really bad flashbacks of the Urban Meyer experience with Bill Belichick in North Carolina. Because if you are not bringing the schematic defensive wizardry that we know Bill Belichick for, what are you here for?
Yeah, the thing that stood out to me was going into the game, somebody was asking me if they should fade or bet Bill Belichick. And I was like, well, every ounce of my being is like, you have to bet on Bill Belichick, because I take a look at his records versus rookie quarterbacks. I think about how young these quarterbacks he's going to be scheming up, game plans against are in college. And then I failed to take into consideration the thing that I did for a living, and that the floor in the National Football League at the line of scrimmage is still pretty high. When you get into college and you're out schemed and you're outmanned, because you have to keep in mind this TCU team is one that was competing in the college football playoff, right? This is a team that's like talented. This is a team that's pretty talented, right? We're not talking about the Liberty Flames going down to play UNC, and Liberty's talented. Don't get it twisted. I'm a Virginia boy myself, but it just looked to me like, oh shit, the scheme isn't enough to get it done here. We are actually just getting our asses kicked. And you can see that look on the sideline. And we've all been there as players in blowouts. And Bill had it early. And the people in the suite had it early. They went from joking around with MJ to trying to be as quiet as they could around MJ. It got awkward quick last night. I
did find it incredibly ironic and just makes you really appreciate how hard it is to predict stuff when Matt Patricia dialed up maybe one of the best defensive game plans of the weekend with Ohio State shutting down Texas, holding them to 7 points. And Bill Belichick can't stop TCU. Now, TCU, I love the quarterback, Josh Hoover. I think he's a dude. I think he's an NFL quarterback. They have players there offensively. They have some NFL wide receivers. But they don't have 48 points on a North Carolina defense. This is like the Mac Brown era. They didn't have games like this, you know? They didn't have games where they got embarrassed to this degree. Yeah, not a good start.
To be fair to Bill and Matt Patricia had an amazing game. Credit to him. He also had 2 6'4", 250-pound linebackers who could run with every skill position player. Sonny Styles, Arvell Reese was phenomenal on Saturday. And of course, they had the best defensive player in football. There's just so many more pieces to where, like, in college especially, you can raise your floor and ceiling a lot by just having better players than the other team.
I call that Clemson.
Yeah, Clemson has been better than pretty much a majority of college football because they just get better players. North Carolina is going to try and out scheme people, but there's not much you can do when you're getting blown off the ball. I say it all the time. If you can't win up front, you're going to lose the game.
And
Can we
scheme's
spend 30 seconds talking about how much pressure Arch Manning is under and whether or not the scrutiny is
Okay, yes, I love this.
is warranted or not? And here's my take. I think Arch Manning is going to be a great football player. Okay, he was, because all I can do is compare it to myself. I played at a small private school. All the kids looked like me. Granted, I was a lot bigger than those kids, and I dominated. You look at Arch, he dominated his competition in high school. Not only that, he was technically sound. The ball was out on time, yada, yada, yada. The small sample size we saw last year with Arch Manning looked pretty darn good. I think something's going on physically with him, first and foremost. But second of all, you're playing at the Horseshoe. This is your operation now. Everybody and their mama is using the G word with you, generational. There is so much pressure that young man is under. And I think that this situation is probably the best thing for him because he has to realize that it's not all sunshine and rainbows. It was sunshine and rainbows in my life for a long time until it wasn't. And I was a better player, man, teammate because of it. I have no gripes, or I have heard no gripes about him as a man or a teammate, but he'll probably come out the other side of this thing even better. And for a team that got mollywopped so bad, according to Twitter, they lost by one touchdown. So take that for what it's worth. And also the closing speed on the secondary for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I know none of those guys' names, but holy hell. If you were open, it wasn't for long against that Ohio State secondary.
It's sort of symptomatic of what we've done with young quarterbacks that we think are going to be good is we make them out using generational, using like this guy's going to be surefire number one pick. And we just got to give them time to mess up. We got to give them time to fail. Like this was, like you said, Arch Manning's first like start as the guy at the Horseshoe against a team with maybe like 40 guys. They're going to be in the NFL between this year, next year, year after that. He looked like a guy who was making his first career start in a big time moment. He looked like a kid, and there were some moments where he had really talented throws. The touchdown, there were a couple plays down the sideline where not many quarterbacks even try that throw, let alone make it with the accuracy he did. But under pressure, you could see sort of the mechanics fall apart, which is what's going to happen when you are 19 years old playing in the Horseshoe and everything means so much more than what it actually is. He'll be fine. This was a bad game. We're going to look back at this in like November and be like, oh, that was just a bad game against a really good defense. And it turns out Arch Manning is probably going to be fine.
Yeah. The overreaction. I mean, the jokes were funny. Yes. I'm not going to say they weren't. But it was from the very first play. I remember I was at the bar. I told you guys I did that challenge this weekend. It crushed me. But I was at the bar and very first throw, he spikes like one of the easiest, they boot right. And he just like puts it 5 yards in front of a wide receiver.
Skips a rock at his receiver.
And from that very first throw, I was like, oh, that's not good. Like that's not an accident. That is, he's rushing. Just like that is anxiety overcoming a young quarterback. And that was the story of the game.
Tension.
He at no point felt loose. He at no point looked loose. I mean, so hopefully that'll change. Obviously, things of that nature have been the downfall of some quarterbacks, but it's good that, he got it out of the way now. He is the butt of the jokes now. He's not the butt of the jokes, all off season, but that's going to be in his mind. He gets a full week and a full season now to bounce back from it. And he definitely will, because there's too much talent in this Texas roster for them not to. But that was a wild, wild game, I will say. All right, other bit of news. Back to the NFL here. Micah Parsons, back joint sprain. So it was the reason he wasn't, quote unquote, reason he wasn't practicing in Dallas. A lot of people thought it was just, okay, not real. He was doing it because of the holdout. Goes to Green Bay. Oh, it's actually still an issue here. He's limited participant in practice, not going to be practicing in full this week ahead of week 1. Still scheduled to play. Kyle, how big a deal is this?
Let me tell you what, this back stuff never goes away. And Mike, your old man can speak to this. He's in this field. I've got metal in my neck, and I've had micro fractures throughout my spine. And while I can still go down to my garage in jeans and a button down and hit snatches and power cleans and squats, I am not the man I used to be. And I don't have the confidence that I have under pressure. And when I talk about pressure, I'm not talking about playing at Lambeau Field and the lights are bright. I'm talking about a left guard and a left tackle, or a right guard and a right tackle coming at me on a deuce block. And I got to do everything in my power and trust my spine to stand in there. Look, I don't think Micah Parsons is going to have any issues as it pertains to the big picture, but he ain't going to feel good doing it early. If they're talking about giving him an epidural, if they're talking about giving him anything, it used to be Toradol. You'd get the injection of Toradol. If you had any doubt about your body quitting before your mind did, you'd give yourself Toradol.
Did you ever get a Toradol shot?
I had it like twice. I had a broken big toe in junior college, and we were playing against Mount San Antonio, and Nebraska was coming to watch the game. And I was like, I gotta gangster this shit out, dude. I gotta go block somebody today, earn my money. And sure enough, I got that lidocaine shot in my big toe. Never even thought about it the whole game. Couldn't walk the next week. But this is the decisions that Mike is going to have to come up with as the game draws closer. Do I feel good enough to go naturally? Because the negative thing about getting these shots is, yeah, you'll feel great in the game. And I'm sure he'll have 2.5 sacks and 5 pressures. But then what does Wednesday practice look like? Does it even exist for Micah Parsons next week? Does Thursday practice happen? Is he healthy enough to get out there Friday and do some walkthrough with the guys? Because, look, we don't know how we feel until that week 1 game happens, and you have to go do 70 plays. That's when we'll know more about Micah. But I'm keeping my eye on it because backs, they don't get any better.
I'm also definitely keeping my eye on it, especially, like you said, Kyle, with backs not getting any better, it's a little worrisome for a player who's predicated on explosive movements like Micah Parsons. He has the technical ability, but he is much more of I'm going to be bigger, stronger, and faster than you. And those explosive movements, as both you guys know, you can't really do that with a bad back. That saps that athletic ability. I'm sure he'll probably be fine for week 1 if he gets the epidural, which still, like, it's a crazy thought to think about. I tell my girlfriend all the time, like, football is so crazy to the point where, like, we're giving people epidurals to play in a football game, and there's like, oh yeah, it's fine. We do that all the time. And she's just like, how is this a thing? I'm like, that's just football. But
that thing we developed for pregnancy? Yeah, that's to stop the pain. Yeah, no, we're gonna do it to play a game of football too.
Yeah, we'll use it for like 70 plays. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. Don't worry about it. But I'm a little worried going forward just because the explosive movements, if that's not a part of Parsons' game, how does he develop, and how does he develop a counterpunch to that?
Well, here's the thing. They got the Lions. They got Penei Sewell. That ain't the guy. That ain't the guy you want on the schedule.
Don't show him.
Like,
don't show him any blood.
Back.
Don't show him any blood, buddy. He's going to be cut. Like, you don't think that. Okay, so Penei Sewell is the big lion, in the savannah, wherever the hell the lions are, and he's up there on his big rock, and he's just enjoying the offseason. And then the little birdie that's Mufasa's homie, he's like, hey, Micah Parsons just showed up, and Penei Sewell is like, he licks his paw, he scratches his thing, and then he goes down there to go check him out. He's like, if he's healthy, I got to get ready for a fight. Now you tell Penei Sewell he has an opportunity to maybe try to embarrass him in his own house in front of his new fans. Penei Sewell and Dan Gamble have a plan to come for Micah Parsons. I can promise you that.
I wonder if they I'm not going to say pitch count Micah Parsons, but if they give him more snaps over, like, as the spinner in a lot of these pass rush situations where you're avoiding going up against Penei Sewell or Taylor Decker, where you're lining him up against the more inexperienced middle 3 of Christian Mahogany, Tate Ratledge, Graham Glasgow. Do you give him more snaps there to kind of not only maximize your pressure packages, but alleviate some of the pressure on his back going up against guys like Penei Sewell, Taylor Decker? Do the Packers just try and basically match ISO ball them against the middle 3?
I think that's a great point. I think they're going to, and I think you're keeping them. Where's your back? Where are you getting bent backwards and really putting stress on your back? Just holding the point in the running game. That's where that starts to be an issue in my eyes, just like kinesthetically. So as much as you could keep him off field in early downs, maximize him in pass rush situations, I think you got to do that early on. But that's also where, he is at his most valuable. So
they're going to find him in the first 15. They're going to find him. They're coming for him. I'll tell you what, I've been in these meetings. You come for guys like this. We played J.J. Watt week 1, 2015. And it was J.J. Watt. This was J.J. Watt, you know what I'm saying? And all I was thinking about the whole offseason was J.J. Watt and how he was going to embarrass me. And he wants to take the Mercedes out of my driveway. You know what I'm saying? And we found out he was dealing with injury. If you remember, he was coming back from, I think it was elbow or something.
The elbow, yeah.
Dude, we had 7-8 plays where we were trying to go get J.J. Watt. We were trying to eliminate, if he bleeds, we can kill it like the Predator. We were trying to kill him that day. And that's, pretty or ugly or whatever you want to call it. That's the NFL. And Micah Parsons is the new gun in town, and they're going to see how good he shoots.
We shall see ourselves because you'll be there in Green Bay.
Yeah, I will.
Can't wait. All right. We're going to take a quick break. After that, we're going to get to our bold predictions for the 2025 season.
You can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus. So even if you can't count on accurate expiration dates,
that is a rookie mistake,
or people appreciating your fashion sense,
Jim, the crowd is not on board here.
you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS, streaming on Paramount Plus.
Glad we wear our good jerseys.
Yeah. All right, Kyle, give us something bold.
Well, geez. You put me on the spot here. Okay. Bold predictions. We had some fun with this last year, and we're going to get into that later in the show. My bold prediction stems from last year, a small sample size of what we saw from the Houston Texans, albeit in a year where they struggled as a football team as a whole, where C.J. Stroud, admittedly, and obviously in the eyes of the national media, he had a regression, and there was a lot of question marks about what version of him we're going to see in year 3. The offensive line had a reshuffle. They lost Laramie Tunsil, invested money in new pieces. But the one guy who remains on the team that I still think will be the focal point in this Nick Caley offense is going to be Nico Collins. My bold prediction is that Nico Collins breaks Andre Johnson's single-season receiving yards record, which is 1,598. In 2024, Collins went 12 games, 68 catches, on 100 targets for 1,006 yards. That's 83-ish yards a game. Over 18 games, it'll put him at 1,494. Does he have 94 in him? Does he have 94 a game in him?
Well, here's the thing. Two of those games he barely played. So it's really more like 10. So
it's like 90. It's like 90.
So he was basically on pace for a full season to crack that number.
To be 1,640, something like that, which would put him right there at it. If C.J. Stroud is who I think he is, if Nico Collins, because I'm a firm believer in just being a bigger, badder athlete than the guys they're playing against, and I think C.J. Stroud understands that. He's played with great athletes his entire career. Throw the ball to Nico Collins early and often, and you know what? If they tackle him, they got lucky. And if he catches it and breaks it for a touchdown, I'm not surprised. I think Nico Collins breaks a single-season Texans receiving record this year.
I really like that one, largely because this offense is going to go through a lot of flux, a lot of change, especially up front with the offensive line. When you think about the Texans receiving corps, it's not going to have Tank Dell, not going to have Stephon Diggs. You're going to be playing 2 rookies a lot. What is the one constant that the Texans have? It is C.J. Stroud to Nico Collins, especially if Joe Mixon, who is sort of like been one of the weirder injury question marks of the offseason. He's on the physically unable to perform list. Is he not? We don't know what's going to happen there. But if there's all this stuff changing around the Texans, the one thing that is constant is CJ to Nico on any in-breaking route is going to be cash money. So I think he has a really good chance of breaking the single-season receiving yards record for the Texans. I definitely know he's going to break that target record, though.
Yeah, I like this one. I honestly don't even think it's super bold, just because this is their what else are you gonna do? You're gonna hand it to Nick Chubb at this point in time? You're gonna throw it to 2 rookies or Christian Kirk? They're just, it makes too much sense.
The protection could be so bad that CJ doesn't even get the ball out, period. I mean, we've yet to really see this group deal with injury at all, get the depth tested. But
But
to JP's point, they're going to throw that sucker to Nico.
Unique thing about Nico, he can win quick too. He's a bigger wide receiver that doesn't just have to get down the field to get open. He can win right off the line as well, which obviously is why he's so special. All right, my bold prediction. I've hinted at this one. I may have said this one already, but I'm going to rehash it. I think the Tampa Bay Bucs are your number 1 seed in the NFC. Number of reasons for this. One, they have the easiest division in the NFC right now. Last year, they obviously lost twice to the Falcons. I think fluky, both of those. They went 10-7 last year with those 2 losses. I think they either sweep the division this year or only have 1 loss in the division this year. Last year, they beat the Lions, the Commanders, the Eagles, so they could hang with pretty much the top of the NFC. And I think they are better than last year. I mean, where are they worse? They've brought back pretty much everyone from last year's roster, only added more at receiver, only added more at cornerback, only added more along the defensive line. There's just so many reasons to believe that this Bucs team has improved in a number of different manners. It is really just this offensive line, sans Tristan Wirfs early on this season. But given their easy schedule, given their easy division, given, they play the NFC West, the AFC East, given all of that, I think they win 13 or 14 games, and just no one else gets to that point. No one else is rolling through that unscathed in the NFC this year because there's too many good teams.
I really like this one. I'm a big fan of what the Bucs are bringing to the table. I just love how they've added on the defensive side of the ball to sort of alleviate some of their issues. Last year, they had a lot of issues in their secondary. They couldn't win with 4, so they always had to send these simulated pressures and looks that Todd Bowles is known for, but they couldn't make it happen because they didn't have good coverage on the back end. So you're just sending simulated pressures for nothing. So now they've added to the secondary. You get Servassier Dennis back at linebacker, and you have guys who can win with 4, especially if Kalijah Kancey is healthy. I'm a little worried about the first month of the season without Godwin, without Tristan Wirfs. You got to play Houston on the road. You play Philadelphia. You play Seattle, San Francisco, Detroit. If you could just get through like week 8, which is New Orleans, their bye week is week 9. If they get through that with a really good record, I could definitely see this happening.
I love this as well, Mike. And we talked about the Bucs at length when making our season-long projections and predictions. We had to do brackets for HQ. They're asking us, it's the middle of July. They're like, who's going to win the Super Bowl and how are we going to get there? First off, WTF. Second off, the Bucs were in a lot of those predictions for you and me and a lot of people, apparently. I look at a guy like Micah Parsons, and you talked about the receiver position and some of the question marks early in the season, some of the tough opponents. Look, it's going to be trial by fire for him. We're going to find out exactly how Baker Mayfield feels about a Micah Parsons when the plane hits the ground week 1. I think they're going to use him a ton. I think they're going to have to. And when the cavalry arrives for this football team, this is the group that nobody wants to play because their offense has such a high, in my opinion. And whether you're on the road or at home, you've got a chance with Baker Mayfield and you got a chance with that defense.
Can we have a side note on Servassier Dennis real quick? Do we think his parents just loved cognac?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Servassier.
Servassier.
It's such a regal name, but it's also like a direct corollary to Cavassier. Like it has to be named like after Cavassier, right?
It's such an incredible linebacker name too. That is such a linebacker ass name that like you had nothing else you could be except for an NFL linebacker named Servassier Dennis.
Destined to be this. All right, JP, what's your first bold prediction?
All right, my first bold prediction has to do with a player. I think Malik Neighbors is going to lead the NFL in targets. I think this is a really good one, largely because last year he finished second by 5 to Jamar Chase. And this year, I think the quarterback situation is better, question mark, depending on who's playing quarterback. I think the quarterback situation is a little better, but I still do think the Giants are in a situation where they don't really have a lot of needle movers in that receiver core. I think Theo Johnson is fun, but Neighbors is the straw that stirs the drink for them offensively. I think they're going to force feed him a lot of stuff, especially in the quick game in terms of design touches. Yeah. They're going to try and get him the ball a lot. He's their most explosive offensive player. And if you're going to start Jackson Dart, there's nobody better to throw it to than the really good second-year receiver who you have to build a rapport with. So my bold prediction is Malik Neighbors leads the NFL in targets. The I don't know what their single season record is. I do know Michael Thomas hit 185 in terms of targets in 2019. I'm not sure if Neighbors going to get close to that, but if they throw the ball as much as I think they will, he could.
Dude, if their defense, I almost feel like if their defense does what they're supposed to do, Malik Neighbors shouldn't sniff that. I feel like, you know what I'm saying? If they are who we think they are defensively, but I totally see them becoming the Giants as we know it. And what do you do when you're a team like the Giants, as we've remembered in recent memory? You have to throw the football a lot. Thank God they've got Malik Neighbors. I could totally see this happening. And a good reminder that he was only 5 targets away from being the number 1 targeted receiver in football last year. That's just crazy.
And he missed 2 games. Did it. Yeah, I think Malik Neighbors, you hit the nail on the head, JP. Like, where else do you go offensively? You can hand the ball to Tyrone Tracy. I think he's going to be a dynamic and have a breakout second year. But, like, in this receiving core, it's just him head and shoulders above everyone else that it feels like Kyle's bold prediction about Nico Collins. It's like, if he doesn't do this, something went wrong. Your offense went terribly wrong, in my opinion. All right, what's your next bold prediction?
My next bold prediction, I am taking you guys back to the year 2010. I was 10 years old. I was in 5th grade. I was watching a lot of great running backs run the football. In fact, that year had 17 players finish with 1,000 yards or more. Nobody's touched that number. The NFL hasn't touched that number since then. I think this is the year we have more than 16 players finish with 1,000+ rushing yards. And I am a big fan of this because I'm still largely of the belief that the best NFL offenses are the ones that make their offense QB proof. It's not saying that you don't have to throw the ball to win. It is the most effective ones make the margin for error for your quarterback so wide with such a dominant run game, with the ability to create easy stuff for your quarterback. And I think the NFL is getting into I guess you'd call it the cyclic nature of the NFL. We're kind of sort of returning back to gap scheme, running the football. We've seen so many cool rushing attacks in the NFL in recent years, and we're starting to get more of that. I think Ben Johnson in Chicago is going to have a really fun run game. We're seeing Ashton Jeanty in Las Vegas. He's going to have a really good year as a running back. And then we've seen like Liam Cohen's run game sort of develop and how it's going to shake out in Jacksonville. Who's going to take the baton there? Bucky Irving just ran for 1,000 yards last season. So I think that more than 16 players finished with 1,000 rushing yards this season. I am team run the damn ball. And even last year, we were 10 yards away from it. Chase Brown almost got to the 1,000-yard mark last year. So we're getting close. We're getting close, but I think this is the year it happens.
I am obsessed with this. First off, I am so obsessed with the thing that you said about QB proof offenses, because like there's a lot of people that want to get rich quick offensively, schematically. And then there's people that are just like, nah, we just do stocks and bonds. We just run S&P 500 shit and it works. You go look at the history, you're going to get your money back. And yeah, we're going to run that offense. And if we have a skillful quarterback, then great. I really like that. This also makes me think about if I could name the players from 2010 that rushed for 1,000 yards. And I'm like 4 initials down the list right now.
Okay. I got the list pulled up.
I've got like LT, AP, Marshawn, Tiki. I just want to keep going here on the list, though.
Was Tiki done by then? Was Tiki?
I don't know. I'm guessing like just after high school. See, this was me in college, so this was like blackout. Where is Kyle? There was an all points bulletin out for me at this point in my career. Steven Jackson.
Steven Jackson is on the list. He finished 9th.
Was that the year the Giants had multiple? Didn't they have 2,000-yard rushers?
Ahmad Bradshaw.
Let me see. Ahmad Bradshaw finished 9th.
Let's go.
And then
Brandon Jacobs.
Brandon Jacobs was at 823.
Yeah, I was going to say no.
There was a year I think they both went for over 1,000.
The leading rusher that year was Arian Foster. He had
Foster. Was Alfred Morris? Was that before him, or was that when he broke out?
I think that was before him.
Was this Peyton Hillis?
Yeah, 11th, 1,100 yards.
Oh gosh.
Jamal Charles finished 2nd. 1467. Then Michael Turner in Atlanta finished
Yeah.
third.
Those
Chris
times.
Johnson was fourth, and then my
Chris
guy
Johnson.
Maurice Jones-Drew was fifth.
MJD, CJ2K, MJD, LTAP. There's a lot of cool
God, that
initials
was when like
on here.
fantasy football was. That was fantasy football prime when running
Other-
backs were just like gods.
Other fun names on this list: LeGarrette Blount in 13 games had 1,000
Oh.
rushing yards.
Dog.
Oregon
Uh,
legend.
Matt Forte went over
Dog.
1,000. Cedric Benson had 1,100. Darren McFadden, Ahmad Bradshaw, like we said. Rashard Mendenhall had 1,200.
Fumble in Super Bowl that year.
Rashard Mendenhall.
That was just a great year for running backs. I think we get back to that this year.
I do like that one because I think one of the interesting, and you said it, was the difference between a decade ago in run schemes till now is I think an underrated part of offensive creativity is that, I mean, I remember Adam Gase running inside zone on over 50% of the snaps one year for Chicago. I mean, I'm sure you loved it, Kyle, but like
that's why my
does
head
not
doesn't work anymore, buddy. That's why my head doesn't work.
that is not conducive
Wanda.
like, you know, the offensive coordinators figured out, we could trick them in the running game too. You know, we could trick people in the passing game, but like, we can like do misdirection and things in the running game to actually give ourselves advantages. And you're seeing that just proliferate throughout the NFL.
The old leather helmet run blocking schemes. Remember watching those old wind up tapes where it's like, holy hell, these guys are running some cool stuff. They're knifing guys. There's ladder. Like, we are seeing that come back. The first time I saw somebody with an appreciation for it was Matt Nagy. And then when I went to Kansas City, I know why he has an appreciation for it, because these guys just bring these old-timey plays to Andy Reid's office, and they're like, we should run this play. You know, look at this blocking scheme. And Andy takes the time and looks at it. There's room for that in the league, obviously.
I think that's the coolest part of seeing how run games have gotten so much more varied and dynamic in recent years, is because the accessibility to just watching like old wing tee and like wishbone stuff from like the 1930s and 40s is like, we could just find all this really cool stuff at every level. Like, I think of there was a Division III school a couple years ago that I think ran for like some insane number. And I just see like Dan Casey, shout out to Dan Casey, who just clipped like Division III football, like run schemes every week and posts them on social media. And now that's a way that people learn and add to their run games. You're seeing like rocket tosses. I think the Bengals ran one, the Super Bowl, Jamar Chase, where it's like, that's just wishbone and wing tee stuff.
Yep.
So the fact that we're adding all this stuff and not going to the basic, like outside zone, inside zone, we're getting a lot more varied, and it makes watching football a whole lot more fun.
100%. All right.
Mike Leach wanted to throw a person over the huddle.
I still think we should see that happen. I think Kyler Murray and the Cardinals can make it happen.
Dude, it does feel like unstoppable. If that's like within the rules, it does feel like that. I mean,
that
the
is
guy
the
might
counter
not
to
make
the
it.
first push.
You might have to have like a half dozen of those guys on the roster. Just
the little guy from Georgia Tech with the 5XL jersey that was returning kicks last week, I could throw his ass at least 12 yards. We're getting the first down, buddy.
That's what the Cowboys should do for their run game. Throw Deuce Vaughn forward. Just see what happens.
Deuce, yeah. 5-5. All right. My next bold prediction. Jacksonville Jaguars. This one's right for you, JP. They're going to have a top 5 scoring offense and set their franchise
this is what
record
we love to hear
for points per game. They've had 2 top 5 scoring offenses in their lifetime. One, 2017, 26.1 points per game. That was their best ever. 1997, they were 3rd in points per game. That was a good year for them too, right? Was that AFC Championship game for them also?
I think so.
Or NFC Championship game. They were in the NFC back. No, they were. That was. I think that was a good year for them. I don't know. It was one of those years around there. But they're going to do it this year because they have the talent to do it. They have the offensive coordinator to do it. All the stars are aligning. Brian Thomas Jr., 3rd in the NFL in receiving yards as a rookie. Travis Hunter playing more offense than defense. A running back room that's just loaded to the gills with talent. And Tank Bigsby, Bashul Tootin. Offensive line, that's I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat the offensive line. It's not great. But Liam Cohen proved he could scheme around some offensive line injuries a season ago. And they averaged 29.5 points per game last year in Tampa Bay. Probably a little bit more talented on the whole but there's high-end talent here that he can feature in this Jags offense. I'll even throw Brenton Strange in there too, because this receiving core is sweet. I loved watching them in the preseason, and I think
Strange
it's
brew.
going to translate to the regular season.
This is incredible. This is what we love to hear. I have emotionally hedged myself against the idea that the Jaguars could be really good this year, because I just know that it could end up going poorly. I thought the Jaguars were going to be good last year, and then they got blown out in Buffalo, and that ended that. But I think this offense, one things I really enjoyed watching when I watched them in the preseason was just how precise and how much more crisp everything looked. It looked like there was an idea, there was a vision, there was a game plan on offense, and the ability to get guys in space. That is something that you really didn't see from the Jaguars last year. It was all like, it was very predicated on iso ball and just winning one-on-ones in the Doug Peterson offense. This feels like they're going to try and put their guys in more favorable situations, more favorable moments. I think we're going to get a really big year from Travis Etienne and Tank Bigsby, just because they're going to design touches for them. I think Travis Etienne's going to have a lot of fun in the receiving game. Like you said, this offensive line is a little bit of a question mark, but you're leaning on the development and the coaching. So I think this offense could really, really take off, and I think they're going to really hit their stride. I think post-bye, after the London game against the Rams, I think they're going to really start to hit their stride.
More good quarterbacks, more better for the NFL. And if Trevor Lawrence, if they can pick up the slack, whatever it is that's been lacking, whether it's health or scheme or confidence or teaching, if we can get to see Trevor Lawrence that was advertised, it'll make for a better product in the National Football League. There's so many weapons there, to y'all's point. And these fans, these Jacksonville fans, they have been waiting, because they've had this prodigal son in their locker room for a few years now, and they're like waiting for everything else to catch up. And now it's like we're waiting for Trevor to catch up almost. So how is this thing going to play out? It's interesting. I do like the bold prediction. And you know what? I'll root for that. We like Jacqueline DiAgostino in the office at the studio, and she's a huge Trevor Lawrence. She calls him T-Law. I hope T-Law has a good year, man. I hope he does.
All right, Kyle, I see your bold prediction.
So it's a good segue now that we're talking about setting the franchise record, points per game, yada, yada, yada. My bold prediction is this. The Chicago Bears will have a singular 4,000-yard plus passer this season. And it's a common misconception here. Let me finish. It's a common misconception here that this has never happened. And quite frankly, it's disrespectful and it's bullshit, because I was there in the flesh in 2013 when Mark Trestman instilled schemes that were so unstoppable that the Bears had, I think it was 4,300 yards passing in 2013. Between two guys. It was Josh McCown, it was Jay Cutler. So it wasn't 1/4, but you know what I'm saying. We've done this before. You can't say that it's impossible. You can't say that it's too windy and too cold. I've seen it happen. Okay, Caleb Williams is going to do it again. By the way, in 2013, my rookie year, all 5 offensive line played every snap. We had 27.8 points per game. That was good for number 2 in the National Football League. We had 344 first downs on the season. That's a lot of first downs. And I Googled what the record was for first downs on a season, and it was the year before the New England Patriots had 444, which is pretty funny. I thought that was cool. Rare that all 5 offensive linemen played was a big reason of our offensive success, but we were still 8-8. Okay, now the Caleb Williams love fest. Look at the weapons. Just look at God. Okay, look at Ben Johnson. Look at the way that the first 15 is schemed up to breed confidence in a young man. Not only in an offensive tackle that is on the hot seat at the left side, but a quarterback who needs to get the game started right. We saw Arch Manning just this past weekend skip a rock to his receiver on a drive starter, a game starter. And Mike said, I knew right then and there that there was an issue for Arch Manning. I knew right then and there when I saw the first 15 from Ben Johnson in preseason week 2, week 1, whatever the hell it was. I said, yeah, we're in good hands. He gets it. He understands what's important. I love Rome Odunze. They stole Luther Burden. Cole Kmet is going to be more dangerous this year than last year. Colston Loveland is going to hit the ground running. He may not be a game breaker. I know I picked him for some awards, but he may not be a game breaker this year yet. And DJ Moore is the stalwart. We almost had so many weapons that I was like, we could trade DJ Moore or we could trade Rome Odunze. If we want to add a pass rusher, like go get you a pass rusher, Ryan Poles. We're going to throw – Caleb's going to throw for 4,000 yards this year, and I can't wait to watch it.
This Bears offense almost feels a little bit like – you know how they have like the graphics for like NBA All-Star teams, like who's stopping this team? This sort of feels like what the Bears can be. And one of the things that stood out when you watch Caleb Williams in the preseason is just how much calmer he looked. Like there was a concise plan. I talked about with the Jaguars, talked about with the Bears here. There is a 1 to 2 to 3. If it's not there, you go here. If it's not here, you go here. And it felt like Caleb Williams was getting through that quickly, efficiently. And it just seemed like there was much more intention and design with this offense. And I think that like Kyle said, there's so many weapons just to throw the ball to. There's so many layers within this offense that you can have, especially if Luther Burden is a dude right away, because now you have so many more layers you can add in terms of the jet sweeps, the design touches, the short game, DJ Moore, the explosive in-between ability of Rome Odunze. You add Cole Kmet and Colston Loveland onto that. The offensive line should be much better. I really like this prediction.
The only thing holding me back is that as we kind of just said about the running game being more important, teams being more run first, we peaked with 12 4,000-yard passes in 2020. I believe that was the most all time. We only had 6 last year. A lot of teams, in the Lions, obviously, I believe Jared Goff was one of them. But a lot of teams are going very run heavy. And it wouldn't surprise me if the Bears, I don't want to say are one of them, but if they are winning on the ground and featuring Caleb Williams on the ground more as a passer. But I'm with if he is not a 4,000-yard passer this season, I think it's a disappointment. I like flat out, like it's not even just bold. It's like you have to be disappointed if you're a Bears fan because the stars are aligning to do just that. And if they don't align to that degree, well, I think the Bucs got to stop somewhere. There's got to be a reason why. All right, those are our bold predictions. We're going to bring some friends on and their bold predictions, some friends of the show to see what they are predicting for the 2025 season, and then go revisit our 2024 predictions, which I'm looking at right now. And I'm kind of disappointed at the lack of boldness, but we'll get to those right after this.
You can't count on Derek's taunt skills.
Oh, Tony, I think it hit the ground.
But you can always count on Sundays with the NFL on CBS and Paramount Plus.
All right, we're going to grade some of our friends. We had Brock Vereen, friend of the show, give us his. He said this: at least 3 different quarterbacks will start a game for the Cleveland Browns this season. What do we think of this? How are we grading it?
Water is wet.
Sky is blue. Today is Tuesday. Water is wet. The Cleveland Browns will start multiple quarterbacks this season. I mean,
roasted.
I don't know if there's any situation or scenario where Joe Flacco plays the entire year unless the Browns magically like harness the power of 2023 and Joe Flacco turns back the clock. I don't see that happening for the Browns, but I mean, you got to see what you got in some of your guys. You got to see what Dylan Gabriel can do. You got to see at least what Shedeur Sanders can potentially do in this offense and before you figure out what you're doing with that top overall pick you're going to get. So this makes sense.
Yeah, this tracks.
I called this one spicy barbecue. It has like a little boldness, but it's not bold. Because you almost want this, right? You almost, if you're a Browns fan, your ideal is to get a taste of all 3 quarterbacks. Your ideal is like, hey, yeah, I get to see 6 games of Dylan Gabriel, know what I got there. I get to see 6 games of Shedeur Sanders, kind of know what I got there, because more likely than not, you're going into next year's top 5 or top 10, or at least next year's first round with 2 first-round picks, saying, I need to know what I have in these young guys to know if I should go up and target someone in next year's draft class. So, yeah, this one, sorry, Brock, it got the lowest barbecue or lowest wing sauce from me. Next one, with first picks, Ryan Wilson said, a very Cleveland Browns themed bold prediction segment. He says, Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders will combine to throw for more yards than Aaron Rodgers.
This feels like the Costanza meme. You want to get nuts? Let's get nuts. Then now we're starting to pick it up a little bit. This is spicy. This is one that I like. I don't know if I can see it happening from the Browns' perspective, but the Steelers feel like they're like one bad thing, one like missed time, one misquote like from Aaron Rodgers, one negative thing from this completely falling apart. And Rodgers is 41 years old. We don't know if he's going to play the entire season. We don't know if that's going to happen. I could see it in if this is like the Doctor Strange, like there's one reality where this happens. I think that would be the funniest timeline of all time, but it would be hilarious to make it happen.
If Shedeur Sanders gets an opportunity, he's not going to let that thing go. Okay. Shedeur Sanders gets an opportunity, he's not going to let that thing go. No, honestly, in Cleveland, they're going to have it's going to be a revolving door. It's going to feel at times like you don't have a forever answer because, to your point, Joe Flacco is an elder gentleman. And although Shedeur Sanders was hit or miss in the preseason, in my opinion, he showed some good stuff, but he showed some bad stuff. They want to find out what he really is. And the only way you can find that out is to put him on the field. And the same thing would go for Dylan Gabriel. But for Aaron Rodgers, if he can stay healthy, I see no world where we don't see a successful campaign here for Aaron Rodgers as an individual. If he can stay on the field, I see him having a successful campaign and people not really having many gripes about his performance.
See, for me, I know Ryan's a Steelers fan. And to me, this is him, I don't want to say emotionally hedging, but him being like, I think Rodgers gets hurt. Or Rodgers, like, it goes wrong behind this offensive line because
He's talking like week 4.
This offensive line has probably the most question marks of any offensive line in the NFL. You have a guy playing left tackle in Broderick Jones who hasn't played left tackle since college. You have a guy playing right tackle who's played one game in his career in Troy Fautano. You have a right guard who's a second rounder, who's a day 3 pick. Or actually not second round, second year guy who's a day 3 pick. You basically have your left guard and your center to hang your hat on. The rest is just like, we'll see how it goes at this point. So you got the wildly inexperienced offensive line, one wide receiver. It could be a crash and burn year offensively for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that's kind of where his head's at.
They should let Darnell Washington play tackle.
Come on.
Just give me one. Just give me one snap. Yeah, you look at Darnell Washington sitting next to Broderick Jones. They look like the exact same size. I would actually I think some Steelers people told me that Darnell Washington is bigger than Broderick Jones. Just let him play tackle.
The number does crazy things to your eye. So, like, you see some of these guys with single-digit numbers, and you think they know. Like, we don't really know what Jamar Chase is built like because we've never seen him in an 82 or an 84. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can look at a lot of guys and say, well, he looks like that. I think a lot of it has to do with the number. Same thing with that Washington cat. He is so much bigger than everybody else, but he's in a tight end number, so people just assume he's like 6'4", 280.
No, that is a massive person. I think the Steelers list him at 6'7", 265. They're lying. No,
he's 300.
He is absolutely 300. You cannot fool me. You cannot trick me. This feels like I'm being gaslit by the Steelers into believing that Darnell Washington is 265. I'll believe it when I see it. Just let him play tackle once. I just want to see it.
Dude, we all do. I mean, he basically does. He's a glorified tackle in that offense, though. All right, I gave that one a hot buffalo. That one's hot. But this last one,
bold.
This last one takes the cake. This one comes from Fantasy Football Today's Dave Richard, his prediction.
I love this.
2025 NFC East champions will be the New York Giants. And the NFC, he didn't stop there. And the NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year will be Jackson Dart. He doubled down. Not only does he think Giants are going to win the East, I think it's going to be because of Jackson Dart, because he's not going to win the Offensive Rookie of the Year if it's because of Russell Wilson.
This is crazy. I kind of like it. I like this bold. This is fascinating because the Giants' first 8 games are rough. They are a really bad schedule in the first 8 games. You go to Washington, you're at Dallas, which is looking more like a winnable game. You're playing Kansas City at home, Los Angeles, the Chargers at home. You go to New Orleans. You have 2 Philadelphia games and a Denver game in a row. If they can just get through the second Philadelphia game and not feel bad about themselves, then like, yeah, I could see it. But I just wonder if Jackson Dart will play enough games to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. When do you start him? Where do you start him? Is it that game against New Orleans that's looking like the most winnable game? Do you play him? Do you risk playing him at home on Sunday night against Kansas City, which would be like the craziest thing to possibly happen? Or, I mean, you get a long week in between the first Philly game and the Denver game. I know Denver's going to have one of the best defenses in the league, but you get a long runway to onboard Jackson Dart. When do you start him with that schedule?
That's a great
What's the weirdest thing on this list that I'm about to read to you? Stop me when you get to the weirdest part. There are conventions of people that dress up like animals and they hang out together. You can have virtual reality girlfriends. Groceries come to your door. You don't even go to the grocery store anymore. The most expensive currency is something that literally does not exist. Triple H works at the White House, and Jackson Dart and the New York Giants won the NFC East, and he won the Rookie of the Year.
You know, it's close.
Triple H White House.
It's close with Triple H White House.
Give me Triple H White House 500, please.
It's close between Triple H and the White House and the Giants winning the NFC East. But man, I wonder when Jackson Dart is going to start, because there's no clear onboarding for him.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. That I just don't see it. Like, to me, it feels like he starts when either Wilson and the Giants just like collapse, when they get their ass handed to him one week, and it's just like, okay, we got to do something or else we lose the fans, we lose everything. Well, if they're like, 0-4 and they've just gotten their cheeks clapped, it's like, okay, yeah, we're going to Jackson Dart. Or he just starts like back into the season when they kind of just had petered out of it, and you're like, okay, we got to turn it over to him. Maybe like, 49ers in November, if they've already lost like all their division games because they played the Eagles twice early on, the Commanders, the Cowboys, all in the first half of their season. If they've lost all those division games at that point, it's like, okay, why not at that? But this one, to me, this is that level of wing sauce where you see on a menu and you're like, who actually orders that? Who's enjoying
it's got
that?
Like
you get your picture on the wall if you
yeah. It's like,
it
why
makes
do you
you
even
sign a
sell
waiver?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I had a buddy who signed a waiver, who ordered one of those wing sauces, didn't realize it was like the hot wing sauce. And they pulled out a waiver and he's like, I think I'm in trouble. He was in trouble, but that's the ghost pepper. So
I did have that happen to me once. This was during the Urban Meyer year. My friend had bought the Bomb Beyond Insanity hot sauce, and we made a bet that if the Jaguars beat the Bills, at the time the Bills were one of the best teams in the league, they came to Jacksonville. If they beat the Bills, we would each take a spoonful of this The Bomb Beyond Insanity hot sauce, and somehow the Josh Allen Bowl was won by the Jaguars 9-6. So I had to eat a spoonful of the Bomb Beyond Insanity. I do think it legit knocked me out. I was asleep for the rest of the afternoon because I could not take that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, dude, hot stuff does freaky things to you. You'll be seeing ghosts, literally. And maybe Jackson Dart will be too when it takes the field. All right. Finally going to get to some of our 2024 predictions. Those were our friends' bold predictions. In 2024, though, I said so like ranch dressingly that the Seahawks would win the West. They went 9-8 the year before that. They had a new head coach. They had like a bunch of new talent. I don't know what I was thinking there. That one was pretty tame. Kyle went 2024 Eagles O-line better than the 2023 version of the Eagles offensive line. That one turned out to be correct. Mine was lukewarm and not even correct. That one turned out to be correct. Not sure how hot it was in retrospect. And then BMAC went that the single game receiving yards record will be broken by Flipper Anderson. That one, I don't even think we came close to that one, right?
I think Jamar Chase had 264.
Okay, was that?
I think that was against the Ravens. So again, not that close.
Look at Flipper, dude. Look at Flipper, bro. Just
no gloves, double wristbands.
Just throw me the ball. He's out there, just throw it to me.
Just came straight for work.
All right. Those are our bold predictions for the 2025 NFL season. We will be back tomorrow doing our season's first episode of our power tiers, not power rankings, power tiers. We're going to do it every Wednesday show during the season. It's going to be a very fun episode. So looking forward to it. Until then, keep pushing.